Good morning. You're on mute, Mr. Mr. Chu. You're on mute.
How about now?
Yes, sir. I can hear you.
I'm glad somebody keeps me straight.
That's what I'm here for.
Okay. So what did you have for breakfast today?
I actually haven't had breakfast yet. I have some coffee right here.
Okay. So today was our, we meet at 4:45 and we walk for 6 miles.
Oh, nice. Okay. Where do you walk?
So we start at the, I still call it the Gold's Gym on Hospital Drive, which is now One Fitness. And we walk to we touch the gate at Hunter Park and then we walk back around.
Okay.
So it was a little bit cool, but it was good. I was looking for you, Chelsea, but you didn't show up.
I didn't get the invite. I'll be there next time.
Would you show up?
I would. Invite me.
Oh, okay.
Good morning.
John. Good morning, Chris. Oh, you're sitting in your car.
Yeah, we are. We're doing a staff tour at Switch, and so I figured it was safer to be mobile than to try and be at the office and then rush over there. So,
Man, the way you have your phone situated, it looks like you're in like a conversion van, a huge vehicle.
no, my same vehicle.
Okay.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. Okay, I can hear you guys. Can you hear or see me?
We can hear you, but we can't see
you. Okay. Well, let me see what I can do to change that.
We can see Philip.
Hey. But not seeing me and hearing me would probably be a good thing.
How is everyone?
Good.
I'm doing the all-important getting a cup of coffee before the meeting, so you see me moving around. That's why.
Wise.
Chris, you're
we can see you.
Dedicated to taking this from the car.
Yeah. Leslie, we're doing a staff tour of a Switch data center right after this, and so I figured it was better to do it from the car than try and rush over.
Makes sense.
Okay, can you see me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I'm on.
Great, and John Grinnell from our side should be joining soon. Just by way of introduction, I'm John's partner, Andrew Shudd, and I've worked on Authority Matters in the past and have been helping out on Listio. And then Will, I think everyone met a week or so ago, and everyone's probably familiar with Will. So good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Chelsea, did we have anybody say they could not join us via Zoom today?
Mr. Camp and Mr. Powers, I believe, will not be joining us. Okay. And Ms. Curry said she would be calling in, but later. But you do have a quorum.
Thank you. That was going to be my next question.
Perfect.
Well, Chris, for the sake, you probably need to go. Do you want to go ahead and get started with this?
Yeah, we can go ahead and get started. Thank you all for being on this morning. We did have, as mentioned, we wanted to have this meeting to get the resolution and tax incentive agreement approved for Project Crane, which is Bang Energy. We wanted to get that done this morning, and then so that we can bring it to council at their next work session, and then bring it up for a vote. Just a quick update: we did present the city 2020 tax plan and the resolution tax incentive agreement for Project Douglas. We did that. It was approved. Both were approved unanimously last night. So we're good to go there. We will need to have another meeting soon for the bond resolution. And one of the other pieces that was a part of that plan was their desire to have looking at that first building as 2 potential phase investments. And if you recall, we went through a very exhaustive process with CyrusOne on phasing and, committing to future phases and, having them meet certain timelines. And we had a lot of challenges kind of working through that. Well, Project Douglas, whereas they're not the same type of operation, envisions themselves having a future phase in that 250,000 square foot building. And so a lot of our discussion as we kind of came down to approving, negotiating terms, was our willingness to adopt a certain set of terms for the second phase. Well, I believe you saw those 2 spreadsheets when we met last week. So we discussed those things and agreed to kind of what the future could look like, but we also made it clear that we can't necessarily commit the future board, future council to a new project. We can say, hey, these are the things that we will likely entertain, but we can't commit to it because they're not necessarily committing to it. If it was part of one project, it would be a lot easier, but it's a completely new project. So what we've been working on is a resolution to bring to you all that kind of says, this is what we, have discussed as it relates to this first investment. And in good faith, we'll work towards these terms in the future, but we can't commit to those terms. So we're still working through that. We'll likely have a resolution as it relates to that when we bring the bond resolution documents. But I just wanted to make sure that you were aware of that. Andrew, is there anything else you want to add to that discussion?
No, I think that's right, Chris. What we've been working on closely with Chris and Breezy is to try to get Project Douglas something that gives them the comfort that, we will do what we can do when they're ready to commit to the next phase. Obviously, we're collectively as a group constrained by what we can do under Georgia law. I mean, you can't offer an incentive where there's not the corresponding commitment. So I thought and think that the resolution that we prepared yesterday, if I were on the other side, it would have given me comfort. Certainly, I would have preferred it to be in a binding agreement and binding commitment. But unfortunately, as Chris very accurately said, we're constrained with what we can do under the law. So we'll continue to try to, get them happy with what we can do under the constraints we have as a group, as a development authority under Georgia law. And I think Chris is right. I would expect that we'll work through that and get something to you all to look at the next meeting.
So then as what we're here for this morning, as I mentioned, is Project Crane. So we discussed, this last week in the board meeting. We have the resolution, the tax incentive agreement for that project. You all should have received that this morning. I know you haven't had a chance to read it, but it pretty much everything that we discussed last week. We are basically doing 2 things. The company is creating 600 jobs with an average hourly wage of $25 an hour, are investing $245 million into the acquisition of the property and new equipment that they will bring into the facility. This project is kind of has a bit of our old incentive plan and some some nuance as it relates to our new incentive plan. The old incentive plan basically calls for our typical 10-year agreement based on the point schedule that they have that they qualify for. And that would be the 5 years, 5 years exempt, and then a phase in for 5 years of that new equipment. So that's roughly the 218 million. And then we are doing a basically a pilot structure, and it's probably not the right term, but the existing asset they will continue to pay the taxes on at roughly $400,000 a year for that 10-year period. And so then at the end of that, plan, the last 5 years, they'll be paying a proportionate of taxes on the $218 million, and they'll be paying the $400,000 annually all the way through year 10, and then everything will go fully on the tax digest. So that is basically what we discussed last week. That is basically the gist of the documents that you all have right now, and I'll turn it over to Andrew to kind of highlight some of the discussions that they might have had with the council representing Bang Energy.
Yeah, so I think, go ahead.
Can we hold on? I've been Chelsea just pointed out that we probably should go ahead and do the roll call and do the approval of minutes so we can, the rest of this voting session can be considered a legitimate meeting. Chelsea, have you done roll call?
Yes, sir, I have. I just want to ensure that I have everyone on the call. So I have Ms. Kathy Smith Curry on the call. Of course, I have Chairman Chu, Mr. Donald Watts, Mr. John Williams, Mr. Phil Sisk, and then I have Scott Powers, who entered the meeting at 9:07.
Is that correct?
Jeff Camp's here.
Sounds good.
Jeff Camp's here.
Yep. Sounds good to
and
me.
I have Mr. Jeff
I'm
Camp.
good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Happy birthday, Jeff Camp.
Hey,
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Well, that's a part of the official minutes now, Jeff. So for those of you,
Yeah, you guys remember that next year.
that's right. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes from our
Yes.
last meeting?
Yes.
Okay, we'll entertain a motion if somebody would like to make a motion to approve.
I move to approve.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Okay, sorry, back to the meeting.
No, thank you, Chairman. I think that was a good call out, Chelsea. So I'm glad we did that. So yeah, to pick up with what Chris said, I think he did a good job summarizing the deal. A couple things of note. Obviously, you're giving tax incentive. What do you get in return? The tax incentive agreement that is before you includes performance goals that Project Crane must follow. That's 600 net new full-time jobs. That is at a hourly wage of $25, excluding benefits, and then the investment amount, committing to that as well, by date certain, December 31st, 2024. Otherwise, there will be a clawback payment that frankly just follows what the authority has traditionally done for a number of years, which is also consistent with what the state of Georgia does. So I don't know that I have anything to add other than that. I saw John Grinnell that you're on the call. If you think there's anything else you want to point out. Otherwise, we can open it up for any questions.
John, are you on the call?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, which John? You mean John Williams?
John Grinnell.
John Grinnell, I'm sorry.
I see John's,
Oh, okay.
I see
Sorry.
John's phone number. I see John Grinnell's phone number, but he's muted. But it's okay. I think Chris did a good summary. I think I've added what I would want to hear if I were in your shoes, which is making sure that we've got something in these documents that provides for a clawback should the commitments not be met for the abatement that you're providing.
Okay.
Just so you know, they have already begun. They own the building now. They've already begun hiring for their positions and getting things geared up for training. And so the project is moving pretty swiftly. Their goal is to have 300 of the 600 jobs by the end of Q1 2021. So a very aggressive hiring plan that they are undertaking right now.
So Chris, our goal today is to consider and adopt a resolution that recommends the city approves Project Crane and then approve the agreement between the Development Authority, which is another business item, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So do we have any more discussion over the Project Crane matter? Does somebody want to make a motion?
Hey, Leslie, Scott here.
Scott.
Just real quick, I apologize for joining the meeting a little bit late. Has anything changed from our discussion about Project Crane in our last meeting substantively? Or are we pretty much working off the same plan as what was described by Chris last meeting?
Chris or Andrew, you want to answer that?
Yeah, nothing has changed from our discussion last week.
Okay.
We just have the full documents.
All right, great. I'd like to propose a motion that are we asking for two separate motions, one to send this to council and one for us to approve the plan, the tax incentive agreement?
Yes.
All right. Does it matter what order those motions come in?
I think the first one
Yeah,
is
just to be, yeah, really quick, Chris, just to be clear. So you have before you a resolution of the authority. That's exactly right. Recommending this to the city. Attached are two documents. One is an inducement agreement, which would be part of what you're approving. And the second would be the tax incentive agreement, which you're recommending as well. And then you would recommend participation in the plan to the city along with the form of tax incentive agreement to the city.
All right. I'd like to make a motion to approve the tax incentive agreement, the inducement, and go ahead and send this to city council.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
So moved.
Okay, who gave the second?
Jeff Camp.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Powers and a second by Jeff. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Now we'll take a second motion, correct, Andrew?
The second motion.
I wrapped it all up in one motion, but we
Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
Scott did a nice job of wrapping everything up into one. So I think
Well, thank you, Mr.
I think you're
Powers.
covered with
You're welcome. I've had my coffee this morning.
So Chris, do you want to discuss the second agenda item? Approve the agreement between the Development Authority?
yes.
Okay.
I'm glad Chelsea had that on there. I don't know, and I'll just ask for Andrew, John, if you had any comments. I'm not even sure if you even reviewed it, but the grant agreement that we had drafted for the funds for the small business grant program.
Got it. Yeah, I had not received a copy of it or reviewed it, but
It was attached to the meeting agenda and minutes. It's page 4.
Got it.
It's not very long. If you could review that.
Yep, I'm doing so right now.
So Chris,
And while-
just to clarify, this is sort of retroactive. So these are the grants that have, the 250,000 grants that have already been given, and we're
Correct.
sort of refunding that.
Correct.
And
As we
did we,
discussed.
and somebody asked, I think at the last meeting, and I don't remember who it was, about the nature of the companies. Like, do we have any information about how many companies requested grants? How many were granted? Do we know
Yeah.
anything about those businesses?
Yeah, Breezy can explain all of it, but I know we probably had 300 or so apply. We awarded 58. The size of the companies range from a sole proprietor to 25 employees. They were pretty much across the board, what they represented, whether they were accounting offices, stores, restaurants, small service companies, small manufacturers. It was really across the board, and there were probably, I'd say, maybe a third were members of the chamber. A bulk of these were businesses that a lot of us did not know. And it really was a community-wide outreach. But we did award 58 small business grants to businesses. We divvied out the majority of the checks last week. We probably still have a few left over that weren't able to pick up their checks, but it was a great time meeting with those businesses. We took photos. We had a representative from Switch. Rob Elliott was there. The mayor joined us on Tuesday, just getting a chance to meet the businesses and really kind of hear what was happening and their appreciation. The other great thing about it is this wasn't just kind of providing financial resources to a bunch of businesses, which was extremely necessary, but it was also making sure that we were establishing that touch point as we roll out all of the things that you heard at the retreat as it relates to small business resources and growing entrepreneurship in the community. So it's definitely the beginning of a long-lasting relationship with these companies.
One other question, out of curiosity, with the focus that was expressed at the retreat on Black-owned businesses and women-owned businesses, do we have any sense of what proportion of the grantees fit in those two categories?
I can answer that, Scott. So this is Breezy. We didn't capture that in the initial application simply because the application itself was already pretty comprehensive, but we are preparing a follow-up survey with the 58 grantees to find out more demographic data and to also find their long-term plan to see where we can engage more with them in the future. So we will have, we are going to ask for, are they a veteran? Are they a women-owned business? And are they a minority-owned business? In that follow-up survey that will go out later this week.
So the reason I asked, I'd like to officially go on record and express that I think that the idea of promoting small business is a phenomenal idea. I'd like to go on record as saying I do not like isolating and identifying certain people that should have more than other people. I think everybody should have equal access to these programs. So that was the right answer for me, that we did not grant these based on any particular person's look or status. I think that's how all grants should be made. I'm good with offering a motion to fund this. But had you told me that we granted these based on certain people being of a certain nature, I would have voted against granting this.
Okay, so we have a motion. Do we have a second?
And real quick before you vote, John's been trying to get into the meeting. Apparently he needs to get admitted, but he had already looked at this document and was okay with it. I actually just read it, and it's good with me as well. So sorry to interrupt, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, that's okay. We were going to cover that in the discussion phase, but Mr. Powers has made a motion. The agreement, if you haven't had a chance to look at it, Chelsea had it up on the screen for a period of time. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any further discussion? Okay, without any further discussion, everyone, please signify if you approve the motion in the second by saying aye.
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 All opposed, like sign. Do we have any other business?
The only other business relates to, well, actually, is really setting up the next meeting, which would like to be a special call meeting as well. I think we're going to have to get availability, but I'll defer to John and Andrew. We're going to have to do the bond resolution for Project Douglas. And they can kind of speak to the timing of when that needs to happen. Well, one, when the documents will be ready, and when it needs to happen.
Yeah. So we have a call/email into both of the firms who are serving as bond counsel on both of these deals. They know that we're under a tight time frame. As everyone knows, we've got to go through a validation process that has 2 weeks of public notice. We're waiting on final confirmation, which hopefully we'll get today or tomorrow at the latest, on when they expect to have bond documents to us. From a review perspective, it's not going to take John or Will or I much to review, comment, and get feedback. We will want to have a special called meeting, I would say at the latest, if not next week, the Monday that we're back from the Thanksgiving holiday. Chris, what I would suggest is let us get confirmation of timing from them. We don't want to wait much past then because, again, we've got a validation process that's already going to have us into late December for a closing. But Chris, I'll coordinate with you and Breezy and Chelsea on timing when we get responses back. And, I think if anyone has any specific schedule timing, this is certainly something we can do via Zoom. Certainly let them know or let us all know, and we'll work around it as best we can. Promise no meeting on Thanksgiving Day, by the way.
To that point, that the Thanksgiving holiday, we would want to, I would say we kind of get mentally prepared to figure out where people's availability lies. If we need to do it Monday or push to the following Monday, that also might, provide some guidance as Andrew and John just have discussions with respective bond counsels.
So do we anticipate meeting next week? I kind of get the gist based on the conversation that we will be meeting, whether virtually or in person next week.
Yeah, I think that is what my hope, desire, and what I'm going to push for is a meeting next week, just so we can keep on schedule.
Is anybody totally out of pocket next week for some type of a meeting? So I don't think we'll have an issue with getting enough people to join the meeting.
And we'll follow up, or Chris and I and Chelsea and Breezy will follow up, ASAP on that.
Okay. So do we have anything else? Chris, you're not late for your tour of the facility, are you?
No, we're all good. We're in good shape.
Okay, I didn't know if everybody was in the car with you.
No, we're all
okay. Okay. All right, Chelsea, anything else?
No, sir, that is all. I'll just follow up with everyone about a meeting next week.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
You need a motion.
Motion to approve.
I move to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Happy birthday, Jeff, again.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.